Good day and welcome to Series English. Antonia Ramakers here, presenting the topic Learning Phrasal Verbs. To tell the truth, phrasal verbs have long been a stumbling block for many students of mine, and that's why I've decided, it's high time I made a video about learning phrasal verbs. I have quite many videos devoted to phrasal verbs. But today I want to talk about some techniques and methods which will help you study these tricky words and actual word combinations, expressions. So I'm going to give you some tricks and tell you about different ways you can use to study phrasal verbs. So firstly, you should understand that context is extremely important. So memorizing phrasal verbs using different lists is not a very good idea, to tell the truth. So this is a lazy approach, when you just have a list and you memorize it. When you watch a video and you see these phrasal verbs. Well, when there are examples at least, it is good, so you should have some context. Examples are okay, but it will be even better if you find phrasal verbs yourself in different texts, in different speeches, dialogues, and things like that. So that's why I highly recommend reading, watching, and listening. As simple as that. Also, you might try to memorize phrasal verbs within some topics. An example, airport. There are a lot of phrasal verbs connected with this topic. For example, to check in. You should check in before you get into the plane. Take off. The plane usually takes off according to the schedule. Look after. You are supposed to look after your luggage. Pull up. Your taxi pulls up in front of the airport, by the airport. You can create such, kind of lists, but which have some topic which unites them. Choose a topic and try to find as many phrasal verbs as possible which can be used here. Also, memorizing phrasal verbs when you use one verb and different prepositions is not as effective as trying to memorize the same preposition with different verbs. So at least if you use lists, try to apply a more complex approach, a more thorough approach, by trying to memorize phrasal verbs with the same preposition but different verbs. Look up, pull up, make up, set up, and so on. Because here you will have more logic involved as the verbs change, and verbs do give a tiny little hint now and then as to what the meaning of the phrasal verb is. Not always, unfortunately, but sometimes they do. And it is easier. It will be more logical. Anyway, context. Also, use. You will see a lot of phrasal verbs in use in newspapers, television, and things like that. They're used a lot there. In addition, when you memorize phrasal verbs, always try to notice whether they are transitive or intransitive and whether they are separable or inseparable. I will talk about these kinds later in a separate video. But I hope you know what this means. If you don't, write a comment, I will explain. And I have one more thing here to add about listening. You can learn phrasal verbs using songs. It is extremely useful and effective if you are a music person, and almost everyone is a music person. Everyone likes music, this kind or that kind. So try finding phrasal verbs in your favorite songs. Or simply, when you study a phrasal verb, put into the search box the phrasal verb, for example, pull up, and then the word lyrics. And you will probably find some songs where within the lyrics there is this phrasal verb. Anyway, moving on. Number 2, meaning of the preposition. Sometimes it helps. So the second part of the phrasal verb, for example, pull up, here we have up, look after, we have after. Most of the time, here we deal with prepositions. So, and the meaning of the preposition sometimes helps. An example, up. Usually, when we deal with phrasal verbs which include up, we talk about something being finished or completed. Eat up, when you finish eating. Drink up, well, close, settle up. Or you can also talk about creation here. For example, make up a story, create a new story. Set up, dream up. Well, and there are some other prepositions which have specific meanings. But there are exceptions, unfortunately, and not all prepositions are that logical. So here you should be careful. However, to some extent, it might help. And 3 more tips. Stories. If I'm not mistaken, I have already talked about this technique when I told you how you should study new vocabulary and memorize it, actually. Creating stories using the vocabulary you study is extremely effective. Since you put these phrasal verbs into your own context, and it is very good. Thus, you introduce phrasal verbs into your active vocabulary. Create stories and insert as many phrasal verbs as possible into your speech. You can do it orally or in a written form. It's up to you. I realized that we are running late, so I asked the taxi driver to speed up. Our taxi pulled up by the airport. I got out of the taxi as fast as I could and I ran to the register. Then I checked in and got on the plane. Thanks God. The plane took off and I was on it. Yay! The story can be funny, stupid a little bit, but you insert these phrasal verbs into the context of yours. As simple as that. Fourthly, use, reuse, and recycle. So here, the advice is very simple. You need to use the phrasal verbs as much as possible. Because if you want to introduce these words into your active vocabulary, you need to use them over and over again. Because sooner or later, these verbs might vanish from your memory. But if you use them constantly, now and then at least, they'll stay there forever. And finally, number 5, test yourself. You can use different tests. There are millions of them, especially designed to practice phrasal verbs. For example, you can use FCE Organizer. There are some tests devoted to phrasal verbs there. There are special books devoted to phrasal verbs. There are tests there too. When you make these tests, your brain works hard and different phrasal verbs pop up like mushrooms inside your head. Also, use all the tricks I've given you as to studying new vocabulary, any vocabulary, not just phrasal verbs. I have 2 classes devoted to studying new words, and I highly recommend watching them. But that's it for today. That's it about studying phrasal verbs. I have given you several tips. I hope that they will be useful for you. If you have any questions, go there, down there, and write a comment. I will be glad to get some feedback. Anyway, I hope to see you soon. Do not forget to like this video. It will help me a lot if you just push this little button, please. It's there. Is it? Anyway, hope to see you soon. See you. Bye. Happy English and Russian practice.